One of the worst things you can say to the car salesperson when you're purchasing a new car is that you're going to pay in cash. One of the worst things. A lot of people out there, they'll go into these dealerships and they'll say, I'm ready to buy a car and I've got the cash in hand and I'm good for it. Sometimes people, they'll splash the cash, right? They'll take the bills out of their pocket. But that is one of the worst things they can do. See, they've been taught that. They've been taught that if you go into a dealership and say that sort of thing, it implies that you're good to buy the car today or that day. It implies that you're serious and it helps the dealership cut you a better deal, but that's not what's going to happen. In fact, it can actually work against you. The dealership is probably going to think you're a bit of a chump. And because of that, they're probably going to think you're not that serious to get a deal done. And why is that, guys? Because back in the day, that sort of rhetoric used to work. You could go into a dealership and say, I've got the cash on me, and they'd work with you and get the deal done. But it's not that way these days. Why? Well, guys, it's because the car dealership business model has changed drastically. New car sales make only 5% of profits. That's it. And, it varies manufacturer to manufacturer, market to market, country to country. But we're talking about that sort of ballpark. That's kind of the range it lives in. And where do they make most of their profit margin? Well, they make it in parts and servicing. That's where the money is, around 50%. That's how most of the business model works. And that's why companies like BMW, Audi, Mercedes, Porsche, and these luxury car makers, that's why they're alive and they're so successful. I'm often complaining about them and saying the parts and servicing is so expensive. But that's what keeps them afloat. They charge these high prices and it brings a lot of dollars in. That is the majority of the profit right there. And then after that, right after that, so that's 50%, right after that, it's actually financing and leasing. It's actually selling you extended warranties. It's used car sales. And it's selling you all the extras, right? You would have heard about those extras. Let's do some ceramic coating or let's coat your interior. That's where the profit lies. It does not lie with the unit being sold, especially new cars. They're probably going to make, they're not even going to cross the $10,000 profit margin in new cars unless you're buying a luxury product. They're probably going to be in the thousands, in the few thousands. Sometimes they'll cut to zero. If it's a car that's priced sharply in the market, there's competition. Sometimes there's no money in the actual unit being sold. And that's why if you walk into the dealership and you say, I'm ready to pay cash, what you're telling the salesperson and the sales manager, what you're telling them is that you don't really understand how the world works. You don't understand how business works. And therefore, you're going to be a difficult person to deal with. So what should you do instead if you don't say that to them? How do you show you're serious? The best way to do it, you don't really reveal how you're going to buy the car. And you don't have to lie about it or anything, but you just don't have to be, it doesn't have to be the first thing that you reveal to them. And that's why you'll notice that in dealerships, mid-deal, often at the very beginning, one of the primary questions they ask you is, how are you going to pay for this car? Are you financing it? Right? You'll notice that come up very early in the conversation because they're doing those calculations about the profit margins. All of that is being priced in. So by you just admitting upfront the very first word out of your mouth saying you're going to pay cash, it's really taking away from the deal. So guys, I always advise that you do pay cash for your cars. That is the way to do it. That's the smart thing to do, whether you're buying a new or used car. You can watch some of my videos. You have to be financially astute. And part of the reason I say is because you want to avoid the interest, and financing a depreciating asset's not good. But the other part of the reason is that dealerships make good profit margins out of the finance. If you ever open up the finance sheet, if you financed a car and you open it up, you'll notice there's all kinds of dealer fees. I learned this lesson myself because many years ago, more than a decade ago, I financed. I've never done so since then. But I was perplexed when I opened the finance sheet and I saw thousands of dollars in costs that were just going to the dealer's bottom line. And yes, they have to live and they have to make money, but also you don't have to be a chump. Don't finance the car. Don't tell them the very first thing that you're going to be paying cash. And then don't fall for all the additional add-ons. They will charge you so much to install a dash cam or to ceramic coat or PPF coat your car, or to give you an interior protection layer or a spray. You don't have to buy that from the dealership. I know the pressure is on here in Australia, guys. As soon as you've made the deal, they send them in and they'll say, how would you like us to install this dash cam and do all this for you? Because that's where their moneymaker is. You've got them. You've got a good deal for yourself. There's not much in the specific cars themselves in terms of the leeway up and down. So now they have to hit these things. And you as a consumer need to do well for your pocket. You have to understand that the dealership is not the right place to get your dash cam. It's not the right place to get your ceramic coating or your PPF coating. it's not the right place to protect your interior. In fact, I don't think those interior coatings are good anyways. Just take care of your interior, regularly wash it on the inside. So that's how you want to be smart when purchasing a car. It's hard-earned money out there. It's yours, it's your family's money. So I hope that helps, guys. I'll catch you next time.